This is going to be phenomenal. So let's dive right in. We've got 21 of you here so far. I think we've got 40 tops that can join us. I'm sure a few more friends will trickle in along the way. But just to give you all a really quick overview of everything I want to cover today, we're going to start off with a little quick housekeeping. Then we're going to go into for about 20 minutes some hot topics, right? I talk to literally dozens of clinicians, dozens of spas, dozens of practices every week. And there seems to be a few recurring themes that I am hearing again and again in different markets, big practices, small practices, new practices, established practices. So I just want to talk to you about some of the trends I'm seeing a lot of providers talk to me about right now and really give you my perspective on them. And then, really, the bulk of our time together today, I want it to be all about you guys. I want to answer your questions. I want to know what your challenges are. What are your headaches right now? How can I get those questions answered for you? I like to say, ask Adam anything. There's no topic off limits. I will just say, I do stay in my area of expertise, which is strategy, branding, luxury marketing. Anything like a super technical SEO question or a super specific question about Instagram's algorithm, that's not my core competency. But if I don't have the answer, I will know one of my peers or a resource that does, and I'll point you in the right direction. So feel free to ask away. When we get to that part of the webinar this afternoon, I would say let's get those questions in the chat box so I can navigate through them. And then once I get to your question, if you want to hop off mic, we can chit chat about it. If you want to, be a little bit more of a wallflower and butterfly in the background, that's totally cool too. Whatever makes you the most comfortable. So I think you're all doing it very well right now, but just want to make sure you have yourself on mute just so we don't have any background noise or any distractions. Everyone is doing that just great right now. So let's get into that. And again, if you have any Repeat MD related questions about the app or about the software, I would direct those to your fabulous experts at the Repeat MD team. So let's get into it. Let's talk about some of the hot topics I am seeing providers share with me some of the headaches I'm hearing about over and over again. And the first one I am hearing so much about right now that I hear, especially from providers in bigger cities, bigger markets, the market is saturated, right? I feel like some clinicians feel like there's a new med spa popping up on every single corner, right? It feels like, you've got, so much competition than you had even compared to 12, 18, 24 months ago. And, this industry's growth trajectory, we're growing fast, right? In 5 years, you're going to have 100% the competition you have today. But is the industry saturated? How do you deal with it? Let's talk about this. So, I want to challenge your perspective on saturation just a little bit, okay? I want to challenge your perspective on saturation just a little bit. So, if we look at the data out there, we know that in the North American population right now, about 8% of the population gets cosmetic procedures, right? Minimally invasive procedures. So when we think of, the population as a whole and how many of them are getting procedures right now, we are actually barely scratching the surface, right? North America, we are a growing market, but are we, the most saturated yet? I would challenge you in thinking not just yet, right? Now, if we look to other regions of the globe, I'm going to use South Korea as the prime example. I'm going to say that to me is a saturated market, right? We know that for minimally invasive procedures, about 20% of the population over there is getting work done right now, right? It's more than double what we see in the North American market. And if we look at certain surgical procedures, blepharoplasties being one of those examples, we know it's even higher. Right. So are we saturated yet in the North American market in the United States? I would challenge you that we're growing, but we're not saturated yet. For me, when you see providers popping up on every corner, when you see new practices emerging, that to me is honestly more than anything proof of concept, right? It shows that there is a demand for these services. It shows that we are in a booming space, right? If you were opening like a printing press or some kind of other antiquated industry, I'd be in a much more precarious position than if we're in a growing industry like we are in medical aesthetics, right? So yes, we're growing, but are we saturated? I would argue that the data says we're not even close to that yet, right? So even though we're not saturated, but we're in a growing market, how do you keep yourself one step ahead? Again, it's all about branding and positioning, right? If you open up as XYZ Med Spa with the same prices and the same services and the same Canva templates on Instagram as everybody else and the same tagline as everybody else, where science meets beauty or, be the best you. Yeah, you're going to feel like it's the market saturated because you aren't bringing anything unique to the picture, right? Another thing I would say is, when you're spending, all your time every day between patients, scrolling through Instagram, sussing out your competition, seeing what they're up to, yes, it can feel like a lot of FOMO, right? It can feel like a lot of competition is out there, right? But remember, so much of our population either isn't getting aesthetic treatments yet, or they've only dipped their toe in the water and they don't even know the full spectrum of everything that's available to them. So I would argue, remember that you need to have a unique brand and position. Take a step back from the smartphone, stop looking at your competitors all day, and just gauge what's going on in the market around you with the general population who isn't doing this yet, and understand there is a ton of room for growth. Another thing I would encourage you all to do is look at underserved markets in your respective region, right? Is, affluent female patient from 35 to 50, like that's who everyone's going after, right? And that's wonderful. I'm not saying don't go after them, but I am saying broaden your horizons a little bit, right? Is there a certain type of patient based on an indication they have that you can help really well and better than your competitors? Is there an age group that you can serve better than your competitors that's outside the norm of what every other practice is going after, right? Do you or your staff speak a certain language or several languages where you can target certain communities who might not have a vendor that serves them in their native language? That might be an opportunity. Maybe you want to look at pursuing the LGBT community, right? Who do you want to serve? Who's an underserved market right now? That's who you want to pursue, right? Yes, go after that mainstream aesthetic consumer. I like to think of those as the aesthetic now consumer, right? The folks that are already getting cosmetic treatments, absolutely pursue them, but don't let that be the be all end all of who you're targeting. Look for these markets of individuals who maybe haven't really discovered everything that aesthetic treatments can do for them. Like I said, certain indications, cultural communities, age groups, maybe it's men, maybe it's the LGBT community. It's going to look different for all of you and who you really aspire to serve, but look for those underserved markets in your region. And that's going to be a really key opportunity to continue thriving, even as your competitors who are all going after that same demographic find themselves, in a little bit of a trickier spot. A really great book recommendation I want all of you to check out, besides my own book, which if you haven't got the link on that from a RepeatMD webinar, the RepeatMD team can help you out with that. But Blue Ocean Strategy, okay? A book called Blue Ocean Strategy. So, to give you the synopsis really quickly before I move on to our next topic, when we look at different industries, they are red oceans, right? What does that mean? They are red oceans, okay? Everyone is going after the same kind of clientele with the same business model, the same brand positioning, and the same pricing. And like it's a red ocean full of sharks, right? What we want all of you to create in your practices is what we call a blue ocean, right? You're creating demand with a market that hasn't been tapped into yet. You're offering something in a unique way that your competitors can't really replicate the same way you are, right? So think differently, to quote Apple's tagline, think about where you can really pursue those underserved markets. And that's going to be a really big key, not only to thriving currently, but really future proofing yourself. And really, even as your competition continues to grow, having created that piece of the market that is all your own, right? Even for someone like myself, I could have just called myself a jack of all trades marketing consultant, but I picked a specific industry, which is this one that I love, right? I do very specific things inside of this industry. And, I like to think I've created my own blue ocean. So always think about creating your own blue ocean. Give Blue Ocean Strategy a read. It's going to go a long way to really shifting how you think about this whole idea of saturation. Because yes, if you look and sound and market and price like everybody else, it's going to be a lot harder for you, especially as the industry grows. So that is my take on the market is saturated. The market is growing, but I would argue for every reason I just covered with you and all the data out there, we're not saturated yet. So that's one myth out of the way. Maddie, any thoughts on that? Any questions on that so far?
No, that sounds great. I'm laughing because my business school professor wrote that book. So I'm happy that you
No
brought it up.
way.
But it is really great. I also dropped a link for you guys into the chat in case you don't like reading full books. There's a high level overview of Blue Ocean Strategy, and you should definitely check it out.
Love it. Awesome. Thank you for that. Cool. So let's get into our next hot topic, the one that I hear so many clinicians telling me these days. And this is actually true, but I want to present it to you from a bigger picture of where it fits into your marketing strategy. Adam, it's hard to grow on Instagram. I can't grow on Instagram. I'm doing everything on Instagram. It's going nowhere. So the reality is, you're not actually entirely wrong about this. We know that it's harder than ever to grow on Instagram. Why is this? Look, Meta, right, who also owns Facebook, if you're not aware, they are a publicly traded company, right? They're out to make their shareholders money. What does that mean? They want to show you ads and content that people have paid them to get in front of eyeballs, right? So if all you're doing on Instagram right now is posting organically, it is a little bit harder to grow than it used to be. So I'm not going to disagree with you. Growth on Instagram isn't, as easy as it was, even 2 years ago. And it's definitely not as easy as it was, 5 years ago in 2017 when, there wasn't near as much competition and the algorithms were way friendlier than they are today. So you're not wrong. However, I don't want you to think of Instagram becoming more complicated as this, spell of doom for your marketing and this domino effect of marketing disaster. Far from it. We just need to really reevaluate where Instagram fits in your marketing strategy and what else you're doing alongside Instagram, right? So just to give you a really good benchmark, just to give you some context of how difficult it is to grow on Instagram right now, if your follower base is growing by 1 to 2% a month organically, that's actually considered very, very good right now. So, this vision of growing by thousands of followers a month, that may have been true like 8 years ago. Unfortunately, our industry has evolved a little bit. So, here's what I want you to understand about growing on Instagram. Growing your followers, it's great. Yes, we want your follower base to grow. Don't get me wrong. But I don't really measure a practice's success on Instagram solely by the number of followers they have. In fact, if you ask me, that's kind of a vanity metric, right? Because I can tell you right now, I've spoken to practices with like 50,000 followers that are like barely keeping the lights on. And I've spoken to practices like 2,000 followers that are like thriving, right? So, more than looking at how many followers you have, I want you to gauge your Instagram success by a few different metrics. Namely, I want you to gauge how you're doing on Instagram by how many inquiries you're getting from that platform each month. How are you converting your followers into consults, right? 1 million followers is all well and dandy, but if none of those are turning into scheduled appointments on your calendar, it's all kind of in vain, right? So, really don't just look at the number of followers. That's a measure of your growth, absolutely. But more than that, look at the conversion of your existing followers and look at how many sales and appointments you're getting from your social media channels each month. Another reason I think a lot of providers really struggle with their Instagram is, they're presenting the same old, right? The same lips and foreheads and, the before and afters that you see everyone else doing. Before and after content absolutely has a place, but that shouldn't be the entirety of your social media marketing mix, right? I want you to write this down. You've cornered the market on you. You cornered the market on you. What makes you unique? What makes your staff unique? What makes your practice unique? Maybe you really specialize in a certain treatment. Maybe you give back to a certain cause or organization in the community. Maybe you offer, a really unique approach to aesthetics, or you've got a bubbly personality. Whatever it is that makes you unique, lean into that and showcase it with the world, right? Because at either end of a smartphone or TikTok or Instagram or any of these wonderful avenues, there's a human being, right? People are in the business of relationships. Okay. Aesthetics is very much a relationship based business, which is why I love loyalty programs like RepeatMD, right? But that's, just to say that at the end of the day, if all you're posting is before and afters and promos, people can't build a relationship with that. That's next to impossible, right? So understand if you're posting the same old, it's going to be very hard. So keep your Instagram content unique and make sure it showcases your personality. Now, that being said, as much as I love all things social media, and you absolutely need to be on there, the thing about social media is when you are on any social media platform, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, you're kind of playing on a rented field, right? Because as much as you like to think you do, you don't own your Instagram profile. Mark Zuckerberg does, right? I have talked to clinics that have gotten hacked. I've talked to clinics that, have, bought a bunch of followers and have got them shadow banned, right? It's a very precarious, place to be relying entirely on someone else's channel or someone else's platform, aka Meta, right, to be growing your patient base, right? So I would look at what you're doing besides your social media channels. Use them well, but don't rely on them entirely. My big favorite, and maybe some of you who know me a little bit better have heard me talk about this before, is building your own email database, right? Building your own email subscriber list, because that is a marketing asset that you own, right? It does not belong to anyone, it belongs to you. And my favorite way to use social media to grow your email database is in your Instagram stories every week. Make sure you're telling your audience, hey guys, believe it or not, my best content doesn't make it onto Instagram, right? If you want our best exclusive offers, if you want our top information, you want to be joining our VIP list, right? And that's your email database. You want to make sure that in your bio or very prominently on your website, if you're not using a link tree yet, you have a link where someone can go to join your email database, right? So many practices, when I first speak to them, their email database is only existing patients. That's amazing. I'm glad you're doing that. But your email database should be a mix, right? Not just your existing patients who bought from you, but prospective patients, people that are following you on social media. So you can nurture and build relationships with those individuals at every phase of their patient journey. The ones who've already bought from you, the ones that are thinking about buying from you, the ones that don't even know they want to buy yet, that they find your content interesting. So really make sure you are using platforms outside of Instagram. Using your own email database is one of my favorite places to start. So this whole thing of growing on Instagram is too hard, I can't increase my followers. You're not wrong. It's harder than it used to be, but to bring it all together, work with it and around it. Remember that Instagram is not a marketing plan, it is just one marketing channel. And you want to build a more robust marketing ecosystem above and beyond that. So I hope that shifts your perspective on Instagram a little bit. There you go. Before I move on to the next topic, I will just talk about TikTok for about 30 seconds. I love TikTok. TikTok is wonderful. It's easier to grow on TikTok right now. But one thing I will tell you about it, there's been studies done on this by a group called Kantar, Kantar. They're a group that just analyzes all things social media. And what they've discovered is 7 TikTok followers is about as much to your business in terms of revenue potential as 1 Instagram follower. So, can you grow more quickly on TikTok right now? Yes. Is its algorithm much different than Instagram's and really cool and powerful? Yes. However, understand, at least for the time being, those followers are technically worth less to your business than an Instagram follower would be. And right now, the data out there, as I mentioned, is really a ratio of 7 to 1. So, a practice with like 7,000 followers on TikTok, that's going to get them probably as much business as about 1,000 Instagram followers. So if you're a clinician or you're a provider that's on TikTok right now and playing with that platform and maybe not seeing results right just yet, remember that, as with anything in social media, Rome was not built in a day. It takes time. And we know that even though you can grow more quickly on TikTok, those followers aren't worth as much in terms of potential business. So just keep that in mind. A last quickie little tip for TikTok. I like to think of TikTok as FaceTime with a friend. What do I mean by that? I'm a believer that your TikTok content should look very, very natural. It should look just like you're having a conversation with someone. It should look very, very real, right? Now, on Instagram Reels and your photo feed, that's where you can have a bit more of that production value and a bit more polished. But, on TikTok and secondary to that, your Instagram stories, I actually like things to look a little bit more off the cuff. I actually like things to look a little bit more real. So keep all of that in mind. Hopefully that gives you a little bit of encouragement around Instagram. If you're having a hard time growing right now, you're not alone. It does not spell disaster or doom. Far from it. It just means you need to look at your marketing in a much more robust way and understand that Instagram is not the be all and end all of marketing practice. So that's my little Instagram rant for you today. I hope that gave you some encouragement. Let's get into my next top topic. My patients won't pay that, right? Any of you who know anything about me by now know that I love my luxury marketing. I love charging premium prices. I'm all about the right words and positioning and all this good stuff. But, a lot of people say, well, Adam, my patients won't pay that. I hear you. Let's talk about this because, again, as with everything I'm doing in this Insights Forum, I want to challenge your perspective just a little bit. So, here's the thing about when you say my patients won't pay that. Some of you may be located in your practices in a more affluent demographic and a more affluent area. Some of you may be in an area where the median income isn't quite as high, right? Totally get that. But I want you to understand something. I would encourage you to write it down. Don't spend people's money for them. Don't spend people's money for them, right? I have clients where if we look and we pull the data on who their top spending patients are, it's not necessarily the ladies who lunch, right? It's teachers, it's housekeepers, it's nannies, it's everyday people. But why are they spending what they spend at these practices? Because they see the value in what the provider can bring to the table for them, right? They have a strong relationship with that provider, right? Like I said, I work with practices where we regularly see, people that are just everyday patients, not the ladies who lunch, not the heiresses to some fortune or empire, right? And they're spending tens of thousands of dollars a year at that practice, right? Now, look, people's finances are their own business. If they're putting that on credit cards or, they're, spending their card payment on a cosmetic procedure, that's probably not the best life choice, but don't spend people's money for them, right? If you walk into any less affluent neighborhood, you're often going to see really nice cars in the driveway, right? You're going to see the latest, greatest TV in the living room, right? So understand when you make the case for value, people are going to be willing to invest, right? If you find that you're in a really price sensitive market right now where price competition is fierce, I get that. I would argue if you're seeing that where you're located right now, it's more likely than not that there are either no providers or far too few providers who are really positioning themselves differently in the marketplace, really bringing a unique methodology to all of their treatments and procedures, and really making that case that justifies a premium price point, right? I know some markets where literally every single practice is running these ins and not we're not talking for members, that's totally fine, but we're talking like brand new off the street patients, right? They're running all kinds of crazy discounts and Groupons and things like that, and it's just this really aggressive race to the bottom that everyone gets caught up in. And so if you're joining, that fray, it's kind of like, well, yeah, you're right. Patients probably won't spend more if you're trying to do things like everyone else, right? So understand it's all about making the case for value, showcasing how you do your procedures in a unique way, and remembering not to spend people's money for them, right? Apple, when they see someone spending $1,500 on a phone they already have, whether or not they can afford it, they don't feel bad, right? They're just doing their thing marketing, right? So just keep that in mind. So that's my first place. I always like to challenge that perspective, right? The other way I really want to challenge that perspective is if you aren't charging premium procedure fees in your market, who is? If you aren't charging premium procedure fees in your market, who is, right? I want you all to understand your pricing positions you without saying a single word, right? If I were to offer you a first class transatlantic ticket, all expenses paid right now for $200, would you take it? Or would you be asking me, like, what's wrong with the plane? Why is it so cheap? What's the catch, right? Your pricing positions you without saying a single word, right? I can bet you right now, off the top of your head, you can think of a clinician who probably is inferior to you in terms of skills, technique, and training, but is spending, or my apologies, is charging more than you are. How is that possible? Pricing, in addition to positioning you without saying a word, is a statement of confidence. Your pricing is a statement of confidence in your skill set and the skill set of your providers, right? So many providers sell themselves short, which not only is that terrible for your bottom line, but it's also terrible for your positioning because patients, just by virtue of your prices being too low, are going to evaluate what they perceive your skill set to be based on that, right? So understand when you are building a premium brand, right? When you're doing things the right way with your marketing, when you're focusing on retention over acquisition, which is exactly what RepeatMD helps you do, right? Premium pricing isn't just the easy and right thing to do. It's actually going to be expected, right? No one walks into Gucci expecting a bargain, okay? Nobody walks into Axis Avenue looking for the clearance rack, right? People understand those are premium brands. So keep that in mind, right? It's all about positioning. It's all about not spending people's money for them and understanding that without saying a single word, your pricing is a statement of confidence in your skill set and the skill set of your providers. So I'm not saying you have to go and charge exorbitant rates or take people to the cleaners. It's not what I'm talking about. What I am saying is relative to your competition, you always want to be towards the higher end of the market, right? Now, I don't have any stats on this in my presentation today, but if you Google it, you can find stats of this information. Another thing you need to understand, and it only gets worse the more we deal with cost of living and inflation and shifts in the economy and an uncertain world that we live in, right? The middle of the market is dead. I want you to write that down, highlight it, underline it, tattoo to your forehead if you're so inclined, right? The middle of the market is falling away, right? We see this in the world of retail, right? The J.C. Penney's and the Sears, may they rest in peace. And, all the middle of the market retailers, they've kind of vanished, right? But if you go into any mall, there's high-end boutiques opening every month, right? And if we look at the lower end of the market, the Dollar Trees and the Targets and all of that, they're also doing really well right now, right? So you need to decide what end of the market you want to play in, whether you want to be a premium provider, which is what I would highly encourage you all to do, or maybe you do want to be more of a volume driven model and really do a more kind of cost effective thing. That's okay too, not my preference. I think that comes with a lot of headaches, but it is viable. But either one of those places in the market is going to be way more viable for you than being in this very precarious middle. So keep that in mind. Maddie, any thoughts on that?
I love it. I'm actually going to jump in and ask you a question before we
Hey, go for it.
go any further. So one of our attendees actually asked when we were talking about email fatigue. So a lot of marketers are talking about email fatigue. This attendee noticed that their open rates have been going down. Do you have any recommendations there? I have my own thoughts from the B2B marketing side.
Yeah, my thoughts on yeah, I absolutely have thoughts on that. So let's talk about email fatigue for a second. It's very real. The average consumer is bombarded with over 5,000 commercial messages a day. Here's my thing. If your emails read like the monthly penny saver, or your emails read like the weekly penny saver, yes, you are absolutely not going to get read and you're going to get unsubscribed and you're going to get people frustrated, right? If your email marketing is coming from a place of value and education and giving people something they're excited to learn more about, that's going to really help your open rate. It's going to help your click through rate. It's going to keep your unsubscribes to a minimum. So I would say, if you're seeing, those data points trend downward, you're seeing people aren't loving your email, that's probably a sign that you're a little too aggressive with the promotional side of things. And what you might be wanting to do instead is really into a much more educational style of email. One thing I love to do with our private clients is we'll actually have them record exclusive video content just for their email database. And what's in the email itself is there's either like a little preview animated GIF, some email programs can do that, or there's a screen grab of the video, and then people can click through to watch that, right? So as we've found in my experience, as long as the emails are chock full of value and not just a bunch of monthly promos, which I don't even like in the first place, by the way, you shouldn't be seeing that as much. So if your email is trending downwards, it might be a sign that there's not enough value and educational content, or that your database isn't segmented well enough and you're giving people content they don't want, right? If you're emailing a bunch of, 60-year-olds about hydrofacials and aging prevention, well, they're a little further in the aging game than that, right? So that might not be the right content for them. So how well segmented is your database? Is your content promotional or is it actually educating people and keeping them excited and building relationships? I would look at those things. So email fatigue is real, but if you have solid email marketing content, you should be able to circumvent a lot of that and find yourself still finding email a really good patient conversion tool.
Thank you. That is great.
Thank you for that. Let's get on to my next hot topic, my final hot topic for today, right? Oh no, I actually forgot. I had one more slide on this. Raising prices will cost me patience, right? Anytime I tell a provider to raise their prices, and with our private clients and clients in our education programs, we're raising your prices substantially often, right? It's scary. I get it. It might not be all at once. It might be gradual, right? But raising prices, Adam, we're going to lose patients. I'm scared to lose patients. You know what I say to that? Yes, you probably will lose a few patients. Guess what? If you're increasing your prices, you're on a growth journey, right? And not every patient is going to come with you on that journey. That's okay, right? Now, you always want to have diffusion in your treatment services menu, right? You want offerings that are more accessible. You want premium offerings, right? So you can capture the widest variety of your audience possible. But understand as you become more and more of an upmarket practice, not every patient is going to be coming along for that journey. And you have to be okay with losing some non-ideal patients here and there. Now, we want to do everything we can to retain as many folks as we can. But again, is there always going to be, as you go upmarket, some patients who won't come along with the ride? Yes, right? That's just the cost of going up market. It happens, right? What we usually find if patients come to you because of price, That's why they're going to leave you, right? So often as we go up market and we see those patients leave, we kind of look at, we'll look through your patient roster and we'll say, okay, well, did we really like those patients anyways? Were they referring? Were they haggling? Were they loyal? And often the answer is not necessarily, right? So, we wish them well. We give them great ways like memberships and all of these different things to really maximize your beauty budget. But if they decide ultimately they want to go and, be the price sensitive shopper, that's their decision to make. We can't, we can bring an elephant to the pond, we can't make it drink, right? So there you go. So, like I said, the other thing about raising prices, it's not take it or leave it, right? There are plenty of ways to create diffusion in your services menu. Offering more accessible treatments, leaning into RepeatMD and offering exceptional value through your memberships, right? So it's not like we're just saying, here's our new elevated price point, take it or leave it. There's a million shades of gray in the middle, right? So again, understand, if you're losing those patients, you have to be okay with it because they probably weren't going to be the best patients or lifelong patients anyway. So there's my take on that one for you, Maddie. Awesome. That brings me to my last hot topic before we get into the Q&A, which I really want to make sure we leave plenty of time for. My website's not converting. I see a lot of doozies out there. I see some fabulous websites every week. I see some goodness awful websites every week. Okay. So I want to share with you a few best practices that you can lead into your website and really, these aren't things you have to completely rebuild your website to do. Many of them can be integrated into your existing site, but that will really take your conversion to that next level. Let's talk about it. So a few things I would encourage all of you to change on your website if you're doing them right now, or some things to avoid. If it is difficult for someone to get to your contact page, if they have to click more than once to get to a contact form, you've already lost the battle, right? Maybe that one click is a website chatbot. Maybe you've got a really accessible button in your header to go to your booking page, right? But if someone has to click more than once to get to your contact details and schedule a consult, you've already lost. So make sure you have one click to get to booking a consult or scheduling an appointment. The other pitfall I see is like a website for a practice and there's like 40 different tabs you can click on, right? And like there's, about our treatments and, check out this blog and like here's this random YouTube video we've linked to in our navigation for no good reason, right? Right. If it's very clunky to find your way around a website, right? Your website's not going to be sticky, is what we call it as marketers. People aren't going to be able to find the information they're looking for. They're going to get frustrated. Back to Google they go, and they're going to go to your competitor. So keep your navigation straightforward. I have another saying, and this might be one you want to write down. It's funny and a little cheeky, but it's true, okay? You can't sell beauty when your marketing looks like a beast, okay? You can't sell beauty when your marketing looks like a beast. If you had the 18-year-old intern do your website back in like 2014, if you did it yourself, via Wix one weekend, and hats off to you. I get that we're all doing our best, but if there's one of the best places you want to make an investment into your marketing, it's into a really attractive website, right? Now, my company doesn't do websites, but I always want to make sure our clients really have a website that stands out because that's your virtual shop window, right? That is where people who may not have been into your practice, may not know you and your staff, that's where they're getting their first impression, right? So you don't want to have an outdated layout or something that looks like you did it in a weekend or you had an 18-year-old do it, for $100, right? You want to make an investment into the visuals of your site. Another big challenge I see is providers that have like all their text just splashed on a page with no formatting and no differences in color or width. They're not using stock imagery very well, and it kind of just reads like an essay. People probably aren't reading that, okay? We want to make sure your pages, I've got an example here on the right, one of our clients' websites, really keep the layout interesting and switch it up, right? You're using imagery and different boxes and things that expand and things that contract to really keep it that much more compelling as people are browsing through it versus like you're reading an essay or a technical paper. Another one I'm really big on, you know, I just get so disheartened when I go to a website and every model on there is like 25 and airbrushed flawlessly, and they're all blonde, looking like Vogue models. It's great to have aspirational imagery, but you need to understand in 2023, especially going into the new year, our beauty standards have really evolved. And there's all kinds of really compelling data out there. Facebook's actually looked into this. You can take the exact same advertisement, but if you put one version of it with, a very traditional beauty standard type of model, your flawless, Vogue model 25-year-old, you take that exact same ad, same offer, same content, same writing, same colors, but you switch out the model for one that's more diverse and embraces a more accepting and inclusive standard of beauty. that ad with the diverse model is going to convert. I believe the stat was 57% better, right? So I always joke, like if we look at your website and all your images are of these like flawless models, I ask, okay, well, do your patients look like that, right? And if the answer is no, you might need to broaden the imagery up a little bit. So just keep your imagery nice and diverse, different body types, different age groups, different, cultural ethnicities, different gender identities, right? Diversity is going to look different to every single one of you based on who you're serving and where you're located. But I want to make sure you're broadening your definition and standard of beauty just a little bit. So keep that in mind. So those are just a few pitfalls to avoid, a few things I want you all to include on your website. Number one, on your treatment pages, this is like a quick and easy change. Create an at a glance section, right? As much as we like to think people are going to read all this wonderful information you put on there, they may or may not, right? They might spend 5 seconds on that page. So, what I like to do is create what I call these at a glance sections, where at the top of your website pages, very quickly, you have the information that someone's probably looking for. How long does the treatment take? How many treatments do you need to see results, right? Are results permanent? Do they last up to 3 months, right? Are they going to last up to a year? How long do results last? And is there any downtime? If you can put this information, maybe you do it in a box, maybe it's, a little expanding or contracting little clicking feature, right? However you choose to do it, make sure someone can easily get this information quickly without having to go digging through paragraphs of content for it so that they come to you that much more educated and it makes your sales conversations that much smoother. So on your treatment pages, definitely include these at a glance sections. They can be super, super helpful. Another section I love to include on websites is what I call solutions by age, right? Solutions by age. You're going to have a lot of folks, they don't know the difference between a laser and a filler and a toxin. They have no idea. They don't even know what their problem is, right? All they know is, hey, I'm 50 now. I'm looking in the mirror. I don't love what I'm seeing, right? So they don't know what they need, but they want a little bit of that guidance. So what I like to do on a client's website is create these solutions by age pages. Usually we'll divide them by decade, right? 20s, 30s, 40s. I like to call it 50 and better. I think 50 and up can have a negative connotation. So I like to say 50 and better. And in some cases, we'll do a solutions by age, but we'll call it for men. Or, if we have a practice that's doing a lot of like acne stuff with teenagers, we might also include a young adult section in there as well, right? So the delineation is going to vary a little bit depending on who you're seeing in your practice. But what we want to do here is we really want to include three key sections on their pages for their respective decade. The first is, lean into their patient profiles. Now, if you don't know what a patient profile is, go follow RepeatMD on YouTube. I did a whole talk called Upscale Patient Retention. I think it was about a year ago, and I talk about that at length. So if you don't know what that is, go watch that on the RepeatMD YouTube channel. But we really want to lean into your patient's motivations for treatment, right? Why is today day one of their aesthetic journey? Why are they coming in today and not 6 months ago or 6 months into the future, right? What are their motivations? We want to lean into that and mention some things your patients are saying the most, right? I want my body back after childbirth, or, I want to look as good as I feel now that I'm in my 50s. Whatever it is, we want to describe that in the first section, which I like to call a little about you, right? It tells us a little bit about our patients. The second section you want to include on a solutions by age page is what you need most right now. What you need most right now. And you'll see I have an example of this on the right side of this slide here. What are the 4 or 5 aging concerns you most typically see among this demographic, right? What are those big concerns? What concerns them? Educate them about why they're not loving what they see in the mirror. Are they dealing with skin laxity? Are they dealing with aging concerns, like skin quality? Are they dealing with, acne if they're a younger patient? Maybe sun damage for someone in their later 40s, right? What aging concerns are leading someone to not love what they see in the mirror? Keep that in mind. And then the third section you really want to include there is going to be solutions by age. My apologies, ideal treatments in this decade, right? And that's where you want to outline the 4 or 5 treatments you're typically recommending to patients in their 30s, in their 40s, in their 50s, right? And you'll see there's an example of that here on one of our clients' websites as well. So this way, someone who might come to your website, all they know is, I'm 45, I want to keep myself looking my best. They go from knowing nothing to like being a lot more educated. And that way, when they come in for the consult, like you're not starting from a blank canvas, they have somewhat of a knowledge base. So it's a much easier conversation and a much smoother conversion. So I'm a big fan of the solutions by age page. I absolutely love, love, love these. So that is a little bit about some hot topics, some things I'm seeing right now. I want to make sure we leave plenty of time for our Q&A. So let's get some questions in the chat box. What can I answer for you? What challenges are you having? Let's talk about it. Like I said, don't be shy. There's probably nothing you can tell me that I haven't heard in some way, shape, or form by now. So let's get into it.
I feel like it's always daunting to ask the first question.
Right. Or I would love to
Um,
hear from some of you.
I'm
Maybe you've
oh,
tried something and you're like, oh, go ahead. Oh, we've
Go
got our first
on.
question. Go for it.
Hi. Sorry you can't see me, but I'm also in Halloween makeup, so that's probably for the
I'm sure
best.
you look fabulous. No worries.
Love
Thank you.
it.
No, I kind of do, but thank you.
Yes.
Uh, I don't know if this is off topic. I've kind of been trying to pay attention while I'm doing other things. Um, is it slow for everyone right now?
So that's a great question. I have some clients who are seeing seasonality. I have some clients who are, booked out the wazoo right now, right? What I will say is anytime we are in a shifting economic climate, what I typically see is certain treatments tend to do less well, right? I will say one trend I'm seeing across the board. I work with practices in Canada, the US, the UK, Dubai, Europe, okay? And one trend I'm seeing across the board, the only exception being Dubai, but that's a bit of a different economy. We see filler right now is just a little bit slower, right? It's not there's anything wrong with filler. It's not that people aren't going to come back for filler. It's just when people are, prioritizing their economic, priorities, they still want to have that beauty budget. They still want to do something for themselves, but they might, so they're going to say, maybe I'll wait a bit longer for the filler, but I'll keep my toxin treatment now, right? So I would say I'm not seeing slow across the board, but I am seeing certain treatments, just get a little bit less traction than others right now. So I would say if you are seeing certain treatments are slower, focus on those in your value added promotions. I would say if you're seeing a little bit less traffic right now, more is more, right? Lean into what we can do to bring your existing patients back into the practice. It's not a discount, right? It's not a BOGO, it's value added offers. I don't know if you have a membership in your practice right now, but that can be
We
a
do.
great way to welcome people back. So there's a few suggestions for you, Melanie. Does that help answer that question?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Awesome. You're very welcome. Maddie, I think we've got a few hands raised. How do we get those
Yes.
questions answered?
I
I'm
will
not the Zoom
moderate.
expert.
I will moderate for you. So next question is
Love
from
it.
Courtney. So Courtney asked, how do I market my M face better? Since it's so
Yeah.
new, I'm having a hard time convincing patients to choose it instead of Botox.
Yeah,
That's
that's
a
my
really great
biggest
question.
issue. So I keep getting patients that come in and they're like, I've been doing their Botox and they like it. But when they don't come religiously, then it's way back to square one or even a little bit worse. But it is really getting them that the price point of this is actually building up your foundation. And I've had a few sales, but not as much as I thought I would have, given that it has great results. And
Your
I've used
hat,
all
by
my
the way,
different-
so fun. So let's talk
Uh,
about this from a few angles. And this is true for any high ticket treatment.
like
M-Face, any of your energy devices, if you're in a surgical practice, totally relevant to that as well. So here's the thing. Amortize the investment. Amortize the investment. What do I mean by that? Let's just say you're selling a $1,200 treatment and results last up to a year, okay? They're basically investing $100 a month in that transformation, right? Odds are they're going to Sephora and spending $100 a month on like some lotion potion that's not getting the results right now, right? So anytime you're selling a higher ticket treatment, M-Face, energy devices, surgical procedures, I want you to amortize the investment, right? What is the longevity of results that patients can expect, and what does that equate to in a monthly investment, right? Now, whether you choose to offer, financing or you use, a firm through RepeatMD or whatever it is, that's, a side conversation, but help them understand the results in the context of a very affordable investment. Yeah, 3 grand for a treatment might seem like a lot if you don't understand that's going to last you up to 3 years, right? But if it's going to last you long term, all of a sudden, like that's actually a really reasonable treatment price. So I would lean into amortizing the investment. I would make sure in your social media you're doing a lot of video content with yourself on camera as well, really making sure people understand, yes, we love our toxin, don't get me wrong, but how is that different than an M face? Where do they work together? Where are they different? Make sure patients understand the difference. Does that help answer that question for you a little bit?
Yes, I'm gonna just be patient because I've done so many videos with these pads on my face. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. How good are your staff at talking to your patients about the treatment and making sure everyone who comes into the clinic knows about it?
They're okay, and really, I'm a one-woman team.
I
My
get
two
you.
girls left, so
Yep.
it's
So
just me.
all I feel you. Yeah. So make sure you are educating every patient about it. Make sure you're giving patients during their first visit a full treatment plan. They don't have to do it all at once. That's totally fine. But if you don't educate them about everything you can do for them, including M-Face and your other higher end treatments, you're doing them a disservice, right? Because next thing you know, they've learned about it from another provider and they're in that clinic. Oh, and then that other clinic takes them for the toxin too. So just make sure you're educating, advertising investment, and making it really the focal point of your social media for the time being to drive that traffic. Great question. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Adam, I'm so sorry. I don't know how to raise my hand. How do you do that?
Great.
If you guys actually
I'm not
type your questions into the chat, then I'll go
wonderful.
in order and it'll be easier.
Oh, got it. I just wanted to say to Courtney, if you're by yourself and they're seeing a lot of, if you're putting the pads on your own face, it could be helpful if you found models and put,
Oh no, I don't apply the pads to my own face. I mean,
Oh, okay. I thought you
have a
said it's
friend
done up on your face.
Oh no, I have them apply it to my face, and then I do a whole bunch of TikTok videos. I'm on Instagram. I'm on every gram.
Look
Do
at
you have it
I
with
love
like
it.
other people though?
Oh, I do.
Oh, awesome.
I've
Okay,
done
then
it
I'm on my
with
business.
other people that are older, but yeah, it's
Amazing.
slow. It's slow.
Cool. What's our next question there, Maddie?
All right. Our next question is from Annie, who asked, what is your opinion about having blogs on the website?
Yeah, so blogs from our website, for me, where they're going to make the most difference for you is in your search engine optimization efforts. Now, I'm not an SEO expert, so I'm not going to go into the nitty-gritty of that. But to me, the more robust content you can have on your website, the better. Again, not only for SEO, what you don't ever want to have happen is a patient's question is left unanswered by your website. They go back to Google and end up on your competitor's site to find it, right? So my rule of thumb, honestly, if you get a question more than twice from patients, it's a pretty good sign that you should turn it into some form of content, whether it's on your social media or an email or a blog. If you get a question more than twice, to the point I have our private clients quite literally keep a notepad handy in their treatment rooms and take notes of the questions they're getting after every patient visit. That's a side to turn it into content. So I love blogs. Their main merit is going to be to SEO. Secondary to that, it's going to be to really make sure your website is a robust education tool for your patients. Great question. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Our next question is from Kathy, who asked or said that they are launching their new RepeatMD app next month. Congrats. We're excited about that. And launching new pricing at the same time. Any suggestions?
Love it. So first of all, brilliant idea, right? Because I don't ever use the term price increase. I say pricing update or adjustment. But when you update your pricing, all of a sudden, you're going to have a whole group of people who want access to your best value, and Repeat MD is going to be your number one way to give it to them. So I love the fact that you're doing those two things in tandem. You're already one step ahead. I'm probably going to have to do a second session. I'll focus on launching there. If you haven't signed up for my next one, sign up for that, because I could literally go on about this for an hour. But what I will say, start building anticipation now, right? Don't wait until the app is live to get people excited about it. Start talking about it now. Not going into explicit detail, but letting people know something is coming. There's a whole new way to get our best value, right? Let people know, why wait for an offer when you can get our best value every day? Stay tuned for more details. Get people curious now that something new is coming. Start building the anticipation. So when you launch the app in about a month's time next month, you're going to really launch to fanfare. So start building the anticipation. Do that over the next 4 weeks. Start building that pre-inquiry list and that list of patients curious about the membership so that when you launch, you can hit the ground running. So I'm going to talk about that even more in our next Marketing Insights Forum. Make sure you get yourself registered for that if you haven't already, because I truly need like 20 minutes to teach you how to launch. But that's a very, very quick first step for you. So hopefully that was helpful. I can't wait to see you on the next one. We're going to go into that in even more detail. Great question. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. All right. I love this next question from Brittany. If you've been offering monthly promos and discounts, what is the best way to get away from that for your established patients who expect it?
Yep. So, Brittany, I don't know if you're a Repeat MD customer yet. I'm going to work under the assumption that you are. And basically, I would let patients know, kind of what I was saying in my last question, right? Let people know that, if you love the monthly promo, you're going to absolutely adore what's coming next, right? Where you don't have to wait for the monthly promo, right? There's going to be a way to get our best value every single day and at pricing that's not available to the general public. Who's not going to be excited about that and want to know more about that, right? So I would make sure, you don't just, rip the band-aid off and say goodbye monthly promos, but you really focus your messaging on letting people know that, we're actually evolving our monthly promos into something that's actually over the course of a year going to save them way more than monthly promos ever did, right? So I wouldn't look at it as that we're taking something away. I would say our monthly promos are evolving, and use that to really get people excited about membership and these value added offers and things you're going to be able to do through Repeat MD. So it's not that we're getting away from it, it's just evolving. Let people know this is the next metamorphosis and that you're doing this. Quite frankly, this is true, right? In people's best interest to help them maximize their beauty budget amid the cost of living and everything else happening. So really just be careful about how you phrase it. Make sure people understand that when you do a membership, people are going to get way better savings than they ever would have if they were waiting for the next monthly promo. And if you can really balance that tightrope in the right way, you're going to find people aren't like, well, where's my monthly promo? They're going to be super excited about everything that your new membership and savings within that have to offer them.
So
Great question. Thank you.
All right. Our next question is from Chloe, who said, as a solo SD, which I think means esthetician, but I was like, is it establishment? Either way, I'm still in the trying to gain and retain client stage. So I looked into equipment like Geneo and Mirapeel. Do you think that will work, or am I creating more debt?
Yeah, so that's a really great question. I've talked to practices. The worst I ever saw was a practice that spent $1.2 million of money they didn't have. They were financing all of this on devices and they didn't have a single patient. My heart broke. They did not have a dime left to invest in marketing, right? So, as much as I love new technology and I love a robust menu of treatments and services, build your patient base off a small handful of services, get them loyal to you. Maybe for you, that's facials. Maybe for you, that's injectables. Maybe for you, that's something, that you're doing, that's, much lower cost to acquire equipment, right? But build your patient base, get them loving everything you can do for them, then ask them what they want, right? Don't just go buy a laser because some rep told you you're going to make your money back in 6 months. Like, do your patients actually want that? What do they want, right? Build your patient base first off, the most accessible services with the lowest cost for you to, get started up with. Do that for 6 to 12 months, get them really loyal, then start expanding, right? I think a lot of clinicians always want to add more blocks to the pyramid, but like they don't market the pyramid they already have, right? So I would say start small, expand from there, and grow from there. Great question. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Because I just moved and I'm like a peel specialist. And I do a lot of facials and everything, but I'm also
Start there. Brilliant.
So my specialty is acne, immune compromised, and multicultural skins. So I deal with a lot of dermatologists, plastic surgeons, oncologists. And so, now it's like rep season because it's about to be the end of the year. So Hydrofacial reached out, Janelle and Mirapeel, and I looked at them and I looked at the demos and I was like, but would this help my clients? And all of them are going to say yes, because these are like $20,000 to $100,000.
Yeah, sign the dotted line, right?
Yeah. And I was like, give me some time. Let me think. And they're like, you're going to get like 20 to 30 more clients a week. And this, I was like, really? How? How? But they don't tell me the how. So I'm just like, I don't want to get more debt,
I feel ya. You're welcome. Oh, I see a really interesting question here. It's actually about branding intimate wellness. That's a topic I don't get to talk about very often. Can we chat about that one?
Yes, go for it.
So honestly, that, intimate wellness is a rapidly growing segment of the industry. It's one that, is always very delicate and people aren't always sure how to market, right? So I always say, I like to approach those kinds of issues from a very lighthearted standpoint, right? I like to infuse a little bit of humor into that marketing sometimes, right? It's a difficult subject for a lot of people. So I like to just approach it in a really lighthearted way where people aren't scared to have those conversations. And, when everyone's having a laugh, they're kind of like, I've dealt with that too. I've also dealt with that, right? I really love events for intimate wellness, right? Small events, I think it's a great way to have those really honest conversations with people. I also really like letting people know, what can you do in your practice to make it a very discreet and comfortable experience for people, right? Nobody likes to talk about it. These treatments, are things people get really nervous about. They're exposing the most intimate parts of who they are to a practitioner, right? So approach it with humor. Really let people know what it's going to be like as far as how you're making that experience as discreet for people and as comfortable for people as possible. And let people know, it's okay to talk about it, right? Many, many years ago, there was a device that was actually their campaign theme and it worked so, so well for them. It's okay to talk about it, right? You're not the only person dealing with these intimate health issues, right? It's a lot more common than you think. Let people know they're not alone. Lean into humor. Let people know it's going to be a discreet and comfortable experience for them. And especially as a fellow female provider, they know they're going to be in good hands and it's going to be, nothing that they should be scared about or nervous about. We've all got, the same human body. We've all got the same body parts, male and female, right? We've got our things going on. So let them know they're in good company. And I would approach from that angle. So I hope that answers that for you a little bit. But I know that is always a tricky one, but I hope you found that valuable.
So thank
We
you,
got
Adam.
time for, I would say, like one or two more questions. What do we got there, Maddie?
All right. We got a few more we can do. So this one is actually really related to your last webinar with us. So what cyber week promos have worked well for your clients that are outside the box?
Love it. My favorite Cyber Monday promo, hands down, is the gift card boost promo, right? For every, $100, $200 of gift card somebody buys, give them additional $25 or $50 of value. Is that like super outside the box? No, but why do I love it? Patients can make it their own, right? If they're coming to see you for injectables, they can make that promotion work for them. If they're coming for energy devices, they can make that work for them. Maybe they're coming to see you for esthetician services. They can make that work for them. So as much as, it can be fun and you want to get out of the box and be really creative, like that's wonderful to do in certain circumstances. But in some circumstances, I'm all about like what's going to bring the most cash into the practice for you. And for me on a Cyber Monday, that's a gift card boost promo. So that really is my go-to. There may be other times of the year when we choose to do more funky promos or things that people haven't heard of, right? But by and large, I really like to for Cyber Monday lean into that gift card boost promo. So great question. I know that might not have been the outside the box answer you're looking for, but I want to see you making a lot of money on Black Friday and Cyber Monday. So that's one of my go-tos for you.
That's great. Thank you, Adam. All right. How do you get staff to want to make videos? My staff hides every time a camera comes out.
Yep. So you are in good company. I have many clinics I speak to where their staff are worried about getting on camera. I'm going to address this from a few angles. So first and foremost, if you were ever hiring new staff, I would invite you to put that in your job description that you need to be expected to and comfortable being on social media actively. And, we don't want to hire a wallflower, right? In 2023, that doesn't cut it. Now, that's if you're hiring new staff. Let's talk about the staff you already have. So if it's someone new, put it in the job description. If it's someone you already have, let them know there are a million and one ways we can get them into the social media fold without them having to be front and center, right? Maybe they are just voicing over a video, while they just have their hand in the video showing the handpiece of a device, right? Maybe they are just with another member of staff and they're chit-chatting back and forth and doing a Q&A style video, right? Maybe they are doing something where, it's, one member of the team is on camera and the other team member is behind the camera asking them questions. It doesn't have to be them on a smartphone, all awkward. There's a million and one ways. Start them somewhere where they feel comfortable, right? The voiceover approach is a nice way to start. And as they get more and more comfortable with that, maybe then they will be on video. So I would kind of approach it that way. Start slow, ramp them up. And if it's new staff, make sure they understand they're expected to be on social media. Look, at the end of the day, if they want their own books full, it takes two to tango, right? They have to be doing, you want to do everything you can for them, but you can only do that if they're willing to be on video. And make sure they understand all this marketing stuff, all this is, it's patient advocacy. That's all it is, right? We're, making sure patients have good, credible information. Growing your business is like kind of just the byproduct of that. So hopefully that inspires you. Great question. Thank you so much. Let's do one last one there,
One
Maddie.
more.
What have we got coming in?
All right. Our last question. Do you have a recommendation on the best way to launch a new service?
Yes. I think I saw another question about that a little bit earlier about like launching a RepeatMD membership. So what we're going to do in our next marketing insight forum, because it literally takes about 35 minutes to teach you how to launch properly, is we're going to walk you through the phases you need to do. What I will tell you at a very high level, think like Hollywood, right? I don't know if you all know this. The Barbie movie cost about $145 million to make, and their marketing budget for that movie was actually $150 million, okay? They spent more marketing the movie than they actually did producing it. Why? There's a lot of money on the line in Hollywood, right? That movie grossed over 1.4 billion. It paid off for them in spades, right? But they didn't just, hey, the Barbie movie's here, right? They spent a full year getting people excited. So if you're launching a new service, like I said, on our next Insight Forum, we're going to go into this in more detail, but like do a phase where you're not even talking about what the treatment is. You're getting people excited something new is coming, right? That kind of curiosity phase. Then you do a teaser. We've got a new treatment for under eye circles, right? Who's dealing with those? What are you curious to know? Maybe you do a live talking about it, but you don't reveal the treatment yet, right? So you do your curiosity phase, then you do your teaser phase, then you do your actual launch, right? Our new injectable is here, our new energy device is here, right? You do the actual phase where you're doing the full-on launch, maybe you're doing an event, and then after that launch, then you bring it into evergreen, right? And every month you're just talking about that procedure alongside everything else you do. So think in phases, don't just surprise Beyonce album drop launch. I love Beyonce, but I don't want you to market like her album drops. I want you to be a little more intentional than that. And we'll make sure we cover that more in our marketing insight forum in November. So definitely make sure you either sign up for that one, or if you can't join it live, you get the recording, but we'll revisit that in a few weeks' time. Great question. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Adam. We really appreciate you taking the time today and appreciate all of you
Thank
taking
you.
time.
This
We
was
know
so
you're all
fun.
busy, so I learned a lot. I had a lot of fun. I will send out an email later today with this recording. You'll get a sign up link to join the next 2 sessions.
Amazing.
And then anything else we talked about here today, I'll add links. So you guys have everything.
So much fun. Just have some quick resources here on the screen if you want to take your learning any further. Learn more about what I do. Hope you found this helpful. I would love to see all of you back here next month for our next Marketing Insight Forum. Follow me on Instagram, Adam Loves Branding. If you've got a quick question from me, anything you want to know, zoom me a DM. More than anything, I'm here to be a resource in the industry. So I can't wait to connect with lots of you. I hope you found today helpful. This is a brand new format for me. I just really wanted to knock it out of the park for RepeatMD members. So I hope you found that valuable today. I can't wait to see you all next month, and I cannot wait to connect with you all on social media. Thank you so much for hosting this, Maddie, and being such a great moderator. This is amazing.
Of course. Thank you, everyone.
Appreciate it. Bye for
Have
now,
a good
guys.
one.